My name is Laura, and I am 36 years old. I'm a housewife, and sometimes I feel like a pest hunter, especially when we spend time at our country home. There, any slight change in the weather brings more bugs. I used to be scared and scream at the sight of bugs, but now, being over 32, I calmly swat them without flinching. It's quite impressive, right? I've definitely become tougher. Now, I'd like to share a story about how I dealt with a difficult situation involving my sister, who had unspoken feelings for my husband. This happened a few years ago in my 40s. At a middle school reunion, I reconnected with John, a childhood friend from my neighborhood. When we were young, my younger sister Emily, John, and I used to play together. Over time, John drifted away, embarrassed to hang out with girls. His family moved away in middle school, and we lost touch even more. At the reunion, I was nervous to talk to him, but alcohol helped us loosen up. We ended up talking like no time had passed. As the party went late into the night, John confessed that he had liked me since we were kids, and he still felt the same way. Surprised, I jokingly suggested we should date. That's how our relationship started. The next day, I couldn't stop laughing when I sober John was bewildered, wondering what he had said. I talked too much. It was so embarrassing. Was I being too showy? It's funny when the person you like gets really embarrassed, especially because of you. I didn't mean any harm. Soon after, we decided to get married. Everything went smoothly as we visited each other's parents to announce our plans to get married and live together, which we planned to start 5 months later. We thought it would be good to live together before the wedding to get used to each other's way of life. Since we were childhood friends, our parents knew each other well and there were no problems. However, a surprising issue came up at my house. It happened when John came over for a family dinner to announce our news. Just as he arrived, my sister got home from work. When she saw John at the table, she looked surprised and then happy. But when John seemed a bit shy, I took the lead and explained that we had been dating for about 5 months and now we were getting married. As soon as I said that, my sister's expression changed to a frown, as if she had tasted something sour. She quickly said, "I'm tired, I'm going to bed. Good night," and went to her room and slammed the door. I looked at John, worried that my sister had upset him, but he just smiled reassuringly at me. Later, as John was leaving and I was about to take a bath, I ran into my sister in the hallway. I was speechless when she looked at me angrily and said, "I can't believe you are going to marry John. I've always liked him too. I'll never forgive you." Then she stormed off angrily. I was shocked by her confession. "Wait, are you serious? You liked John?" I couldn't believe it. After a sleepless night, I felt like I was in a soap opera. I finally decided that even though my sister likes my fiancé, John, it isn't really a problem. John and I are already engaged, and he doesn't have feelings for her. If my sister has liked him since we were kids, she should have told him a long time ago. It's not fair for her to be upset with me for not sharing her feelings sooner. I expect my sister to give me a hard time, but I'm going to try to be patient like a big sister should, even though it's tough. I was thinking about whether to tell John about my sister's feelings. If I don't, he won't understand why visiting us might feel awkward for him, like it did yesterday. I decided to tell John everything because he's involved in this too. He told me, if anything happens, let me know. I might not be able to do much, but I'll try. I joked, if my sister tries to attack me, maybe you'll have to protect me. We laughed and decided not to worry too much about it. We didn't want to change our plans to marry, and we couldn't really make my sister feel differently, so we let it be. As expected, my sister became more hostile. The first time I took a bath after her, she had drained all the hot water. I laughed it off, there's always the shower. I even joked about her petty ways to annoy me. But when she hid my makeup and wallet, that was really frustrating. I had to search frantically in the morning, worried about being late. I managed to get to work on time, but just barely, and my boss noticed. thinking I was slacking because of my upcoming wedding. It's tough. I go back and forth between being angry and forgiving her because I'm the older sister. But it's hard to keep forgiving her antics. At first, I was confused. My parents didn't know about my sister's tricks, but they started to suspect something when she began hiding valuable things. "Why are you doing such childish things?" my mother scolded her. My sister just shrugged it off, but the bigger issue was with my father. My dad has always been closer to my sister. After she was born, my mom got sick, and my dad had to take care of my sister when she was still a baby. He dotes on her more than he does on me. It's like he's a mom who's had the experience of raising a child. I get why he feels this way. My sister was really cute, especially when we were young. There was a time in our childhood when I wanted to go to the amusement park, but my sister made a fuss about wanting to go to the aquarium instead. In situations like this, Dad would just say, "All right, we'll go to the aquarium." My mom, though, would always check with me to see if I was okay with that. I don't have bad memories from Dad favoring my sister, because Mom was always there to balance things out. My friends would talk about how their older siblings were favored, so I never felt too upset about the imbalance at home. Maybe it's because I'm naturally optimistic. I used to say, I'd love to meet someone who could really get me down. But this time, Dad really took my sister's side. She told him that I stole her boyfriend, and Dad saw John as the bad guy who messed with both of us. I can sort of see why he would think that, worrying about what would happen to the abandoned sister while the older one gets married. Mom was more skeptical. She didn't think John was the type to do such a thing and listened to my side of the story, saying, "No, it's not like that." Mom was fair, not just taking one person's word over the other. But Dad was different this time. I couldn't stand my dad saying, "I can't see my youngest daughter suffer after being dumped. I won't let my daughters be treated badly. Wake up, it's like you've been brainwashed by John." He wouldn't listen to anything I said. He is a good father who loves both his daughters, but this time I really wished he would listen to me more. He didn't agree with my marriage, which made things difficult, but I decided to move on. So I chose to move out earlier than planned and start living with John sooner. I thought if the problem was my sister being upset, moving out would help. If I wasn't at my parents' house, she couldn't bother me. Looking back, that was the right decision because living with John went well. Over time, my mom started to believe my side of the story. She said, "I think you're probably right. You're an adult, so live your life freely." My dad, though not entirely happy, didn't say much. He probably thought that even if John and I broke up, he wouldn't go to my sister. He seemed to think this was the best way to handle things. I felt bad for John, who was unfairly seen as the bad guy. I hadn't heard from my sister, and I thought everything was settled. Then, on our wedding day, as expected, my sister didn't come. My dad even said, "It's not too late to rethink this," trying to make me reconsider marrying John. My mom joked, "I've had many ups and downs with your dad since we got married. Be ready for that." This made my dad go pale, and he blurted out, "Really?" Not everyone might have been happy, but under our parents' watchful eyes, we got married. The next day, our doorbell rang loudly. Surprised, John and I rushed to see who it was. It was my whole family, my dad, mom, and even Emily. I was shocked as my sister looked at me with a serious expression. I stayed quiet, but my sister said, "I'm pregnant with John's child. You need to take responsibility." I was stunned. "What do you mean? You don't have a child yet. It's best for John to take responsibility now. You should break up with him, and he should marry Emily. You should give John to her." While my sister and father were talking, my mom looked confused and asked me, "What's going on?" Out of the corner of my eye, I saw John, still half asleep, come to the front door. He blurted out, "What, my child? Huh?" He then shook his head vigorously and said, "No, that's not true. I didn't do anything like that." His denial was so over the top, it was like something out of a comic book. Stop panicking, it looks suspicious, I said, trying not to laugh. What do you mean by John's child? How many months pregnant are you? My sister said she was 3 months pregnant. If John doesn't take responsibility, this child will grow up without a father. Isn't that sad? Hearing this, I turned to look at John, and we both burst out laughing. My puzzled parents didn't understand why we were laughing, and Emily looked flustered. What are you laughing at? They asked. John then asked Emily, we had fun last time, right? Emily seemed taken aback by his sudden question, and our parents looked at him disapprovingly, not getting the joke. John then asked, by the way, Emily, how many packs of abs do I have? Emily was confused. Do you remember how many packs my abs were split into 3 months ago? I seem to have lost them, he joked. He's the only one who would talk about losing his abs as if he'd misplaced them. I laughed so hard I started crying. What are you talking about, John? He continued. The correct answer is 0. Ignoring Emily's confused face, John solemnly admitted he had no abs. Even my mom burst out laughing. It seemed like making us laugh was how to win this situation. I have in total, what? No, what? Emily seemed confused by John's odd questions, and understandably so. John was deliberately causing confusion and amusement. Emily had never been close to him physically, so she couldn't answer his tricky questions. Instead of simply denying anything, John kept asking her different questions, enjoying the fact that she couldn't respond. My mom started to sense something was off with Emily and John's relationship, thinking it was strange for them to be so close. It was clear from their conversation that nothing had happened between them. John's questioning seemed like a way to tease Emily by making her puzzled and embarrassed. He looked amused, like a kid with a new toy, and had an innocent expression on his face. What a tricky guy. If you can't keep up with his jokes, you wouldn't last as John's wife, I thought, watching how Emily would react to his next question. Desperately, she guessed, maybe like 9. John laughed and said, wrong answer. Actually, I don't even know. Even my dad burst out laughing at this, but to cover his embarrassment, he quickly said, that's enough, John, don't tease my daughter. I stopped my dad, who looked ready to confront John. Hold on, let's think about this. You said the pregnancy was 3 months, right? If you think about when the child was conceived, it can't be John's. Huh. What do you mean? My mother chimed in. I looked at John, who reluctantly nodded, making a face of disgust. No, wait a second. Can I say it? Can you? Oh, yeah, let's do this, John said confidently. He then blurted out, the thing is, during that time, I, got stung by a bee in my, private area. At that, everyone, even Emily, burst out laughing. That's ridiculous. There's no way you got stung there, my dad said angrily. My mom clapped her hands and laughed out loud. Well, you see, it's quite embarrassing, but it's true. It was so hot, I thought I'd cool off a bit, John continued, feeling pretty good about himself. I opened the window where no one outside could see and decided to relax naked. Suddenly, something flew in and stung me, John explained, his face and even his ears turning bright red from embarrassment. I felt bad for him having to share such an embarrassing story because of my family's questioning. I tried to hold back, but I couldn't help myself and burst out laughing. There's no way there's a man that embarrassing. Well, actually, there is, John shouted back at my dad's comment. But it's not something to brag about. That doesn't prove the baby isn't John's, Emily chimed in, trying to stand her ground. Think about it, Emily. A bee stung my important parts. Come on, Dad, you're a man. You understand, right? The pain of being stung there, John argued seriously. Emily went quiet, and our dad, perhaps imagining John's situation, instinctively covered his groan and looked down. He tried to look stern, but it was clear from his face that he was starting to believe John's story. It's a really sensitive area for a guy, so it was quite an ordeal. We even had to call an ambulance, I added, teasing John a bit. I was running a fever, and it was tough. Anyone who would want to be intimate in that condition must have really weird tastes. You can even check with the hospital that treated me, John said in a weak voice, which made my mom burst into laughter. John, I remember you used to take off your swim trunks while playing in our pool back in the day. Let me see where you got stung, my mom said, laughing and moving towards John with waving hands. No, it's already healed. There's no evidence left. There's no way I'd show you, John said, and for some reason, he covered an unrelated spot on his chest instead of the stung area and tried to escape from my mom's hands. Watching this scene, it seemed like my mom fully trusted him. I felt relieved, but John didn't seem to be able to relax just yet. I could understand why. As a guy, he wouldn't lie about something so embarrassing. There was no need to check with the hospital. At that moment, my dad looked at John with a compassionate gaze, an expression of respect for his dwindling pride that I had never seen before. Ironically, it seemed that understanding from another man came more quickly because of the unfortunate location of the sting. I wondered if this was a blessing in disguise. Turning to Emily, who stood there shocked, I said, "Listen, no matter what silly lies we hear, John and I are not getting a divorce. I think you'll end up feeling worse. You may not believe me, but I really want you to be happy. After all, you're my only sister." At that, Emily yelled, "Shut up, shut up, shut up." As she became emotional and tried to lunge at me, John quickly pushed her away. "I don't care if I'm not liked," John declared. "It doesn't matter because I love Laura. I think of Emily as a precious childhood friend and sister-in-law, but I will never see you as a lover, not now, not ever. If you continue to lie like this, I'll stand up to it because I'm Laura's husband and I will protect her with everything I've got." Hearing him say that, I felt like I was going to cry. This was a side of him I couldn't have imagined when he was panicking about the bee sting. He seemed so cool, standing there defending us. Watching us, my dad said to Emily, "Emily, if you're really pregnant, show us your medical history or something." Hearing this, it became clear that the only reason our parents had believed in Emily's pregnancy was her word alone, without any evidence. I love my parents because they believe in their children unconditionally, but this time their kindness backfired. Mom even told Emily, "If it's a lie, you need to apologize to them." Emily bit her lip and trembled, saying, "Enough, no one is on my side. I don't care if you regret it." With tears in her eyes, she stormed off. Dad tried to follow her, but Mom stopped him, saying, "Let her be, she needs to cool down." 1 week later, Mom took Emily, who still insisted she was pregnant, to an OB/GYN. As expected, there were no signs of pregnancy, and she was found to be a very healthy adult woman. Mom and Dad apologized to John. "We're sorry for the trouble and for doubting you rashly. We should have trusted you, as we've known you for a long time. Please take care of Laura." They also apologized to me. "We're truly sorry for making you go through such an unpleasant experience." To be honest, I don't blame my parents because I hadn't told them about my worsening relationship with Emily. The fact that they believe in their daughter without suspicion might be questioned by others, but it is comforting for me as their daughter. They are my precious and irreplaceable parents. Everyone makes mistakes. This time, it just happened to be my parents. Admittedly, I felt the effects of Dad's favoritism towards Emily again, but considering how well they raised me, I decided to forgive him. Without these parents, I wouldn't have had such a happy upbringing or met John. Emily, embarrassed by her exposed lie about being pregnant, got angry and declared, "I'm done with this family," and stormed out. In the past, Dad, always lenient with her, might have chased after her, but this time he remarked, "It might be better for her and for us to have a cooling-off period." Mom added, "After what she's done, it can't just be excused as a teenage crush. If she can't apologize sincerely when she comes back, she's not welcome home." Mom made her stance clear. I can't imagine my sister, who was very angry, sincerely apologizing to us. Mom seems to feel the same way. In other words, this was pretty much like disarming her. Fast forward 6 years, my sister did apologize and came back home once, but she was eventually officially disowned and kicked out. Why? Because she had gotten very drunk at the end of that year and caused trouble. She sneaked into John's bed while he was sleeping and tried to seduce him, asking, "Aren't you tired of your sister yet, John?" John was so startled that he screamed so loudly it could have led to a neighborhood complaint. That scream woke not only me, but also our parents, and that's how the incident was revealed. My sister, who was really drunk, blurted out something like, "But you always look so happy with Laura. It's not fair. Can't you share a little with me?" Of course, that was out of the question. We would never agree to such a thing. At this point, I was furious, and John was shaking like a small dog. Our parents, showing a level of anger I had never seen before, disowned my sister, especially our dad, who used to be affectionate towards her, expressed his disgust by saying, "I don't remember raising a daughter who would assault a man in his sleep." That's a moment I will never forget. Once she sobered up, my sister apologized immediately, but Dad sternly rejected her, saying, "Actions you take when drunk reveal your true feelings. We can't trust you anymore." Tearfully, my sister left home. On the other hand, shortly after that chaotic year ended, I found out I was pregnant for the first time. Since then, I've been having babies quite consistently. Now at 36, I'm a mom to 4 kids, including a set of twins. So technically, I've only been through childbirth 3 times. They're all about the same age, so every day is like a carnival at home. When left alone, the walls end up covered in crayon scribbles, like some kind of art exhibition. John and I, armed with cleaning supplies, race around the house on Sunday mornings. Our youngest is in the terrible twos, resisting getting dressed, brushing teeth, and toilet training. It can be overwhelming, but when I see the sleeping faces of my 4 little angels, I forgive everything. My parents love not just their first grandchild, but each new little one. They often come over to help with childcare. John is also great with the kids. He always gets his hair pulled during piggyback rides, which has him worried about thinning hair, but he smiles through it all, showing his love for our kids. I keep to myself that he shouldn't worry about thinning hair. With his recent promotion and increased salary, he can afford good hair treatment. Seeing John concerned about his hair loss is somehow endearing. After all, I want to see all aspects of the person I love, for better or worse. Our home is far from calm and quiet. It's extremely lively and even chaotic at times, but I am very happy right now.